Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. Today is Monday, the 30th of October 2023, and these are the stories that I will try to decipher during the course of the show. Try to understand different perspectives of every single segment and story that we'll be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin with the latest situation as far as Gaza, as far as Israel is concerned. We know that the United Nations General Assembly has passed a resolution, but of course we also know what the ambassador of Israel to the UN had to say as far as condemning, not only condemning but demeaning the resolution and the whole United Nations as well as in effect is concerned. This said, if you look at the number of casualties that are going on in Gaza, they have surpassed 8,300. 8,300 is a number that you need to remember, because a day or 2 days later this is going to be further increased. 3,200 children have died. Compare this to what Hamas did, and then the difference between the casualties and the casualties that continue, and Israeli tanks that have now entered in what they call the second phase of the operation in Gaza. We have to laud our ambassador Malik, you can see in the parallel window, who talked in the United Nations and highlighted the reality of what is happening in Gaza, in Palestine, and what needs to be done by the world community as such. Naming, if names have to be named, then both Hamas and Israel have to be named, or else nobody needs to be named, just as it happened in the resolution that was put forward by Jordan, that was finally accepted by the United Nations General Assembly. A lot of other details will be also discussed in this first segment concerning Israel and Palestine. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Indian data law. 52% of organizations, as far as this data law is concerned, that is known as India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or DPDPA, based on the General Data Protection Regulation that has been passed by the EU. And of course it is generally based on that. Pakistan has also a similar thing that has been passed recently by Pakistan's assembly as well, and it's called Pakistan's Personal Data Protection Bill. We'll be highlighting different aspects of it with the Indian angle, and why the different organizations in India refuse to accept more or less part of this new data protection bill. What is at stake as far as the implications of that is concerned? We will be highlighting that in our second segment. Then we'll be talking about Pakistan's foreign ministry that has addressed the statement that was recently released by the United Nations Human Rights Commission, and of course it talks about the illegal foreigners repatriation that applies to all as per Pakistan's foreign ministry statement, because there were a lot of question marks that were raised as far as the United Nations statement is concerned. This is only those for which the deadline of 1st of November is there, is only for the illegally present foreigners, and that includes Afghans or any other foreign national who is illegally present in Pakistan. Nearly 92,000 Afghans have since then returned to their country, that is Afghanistan, and the government is also firm that it is not going to extend the deadline, that is that of the 31st of October, that is tomorrow. Then we'll be talking about the polio vaccination that is going to begin in 4 districts of Punjab. And of course that is very important, because especially in Rajanpur, where people have apprehensions that some samples of polio virus were brought in the region around Rajanpur. So of course there are 4 regions in Punjab which are going to be where the children below the age of 5 will be inoculated with the polio drops, and that's a very important step in the right direction. Then we'll be talking about a train crash that has happened in India, where 14 people are dead, 50 injured, and as per the government, the Indian government, it says human error is behind this fatal train crash. Finally, we'll be talking about the Halloween shooting in Florida that happened, in which 2 people have been killed, 18 people have been injured. It has just been a few days when the shooter in Maine also shot down many people, more than 20 people, and 50 people were injured. So the spate of shooting continues, and of course a lot of question marks also on the gun laws that exist in the United States of America. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns Israel, Palestine, and what is happening in Gaza, and the importance of the world to come as one and to help those in need, whether it be by humanitarian side or from the political side, to stop the barbarities that Israel is doing every single day on Palestine, on Gaza. The number of casualties, as I said in the very beginning, have surpassed 8,000 300. We have two guests with us. One guest is in the studio and the other guest joins us online from Gaza. In the studio we have with us AVM retired Ijaz Malik Sahab. You are a senior analyst, sir. Thank you very much to have joined us. And online we've been joined by Noor. She's a Palestinian journalist and joins us from Gaza. I'll begin with you, Noor. If you could just give us a general outlook of what is the general situation as far as Gaza is concerned.
So the situation regarding the Israeli incursions in the Gaza Strip is still ongoing process. So this day we had an incursion in Netzarim area. It's an area in the eastern part of the Gaza city, and it lasted for maybe 1 hour, something like this. And then the Palestinian resistance and military forces had clashes with this Israeli forces, and it was flee back towards the security fence in the eastern area of the Gaza Strip. Also, there was an incursion in the southern area of the Gaza city, near to the two neighborhood. Also, the military forces of the Palestinian resistance also had some clashes with these forces, and it flee back also towards the eastern part of the security fence. So the situation on the field, on the land here is very critical. The situation is getting bad and more violent and offense since both parties, the Palestinians and the Israelis, had these clashes on the ground. And in addition, the airstrikes and shelling is still continuous on the Gaza Strip. Everywhere, and it is intensive in the northern area, the Gaza city, and it's separated in the southern area of the Gaza Strip. Whatever this intensive is, it's still ongoing, and this fire never stopped during the past hours. Hundreds of people have been killed, and the total of the fatalities is around 8,300 Palestinian, in addition to at least 21,000 of the Palestinians have been injured as a result of these attacks.
Noor, what are your expectations as far as the Muslim and the Arab countries are concerned?
What is needed from the international community is to make more pressure to stop this war, to have a ceasefire, and to make a safe path of aid for the civilians of people who is living in the Gaza Strip.
Thank you very much, Noor, Palestinian journalist, joining us from Gaza and giving us the latest details as far as the casualties and, of course, what is happening there as well, and the expectations from the international community as well as the Muslim world. AVM Ijaz Malik Sahab, let's come to you. You've just heard what Noor had to say. We have also must have heard about Israel saying that it has begun phase 2 of the incursion into Gaza, and we are seeing the results of that in the number of casualties that have significantly increased as well. What are you foreseeing in the next coming days as far as this quote unquote phase 2 is concerned?
Yes, in this ground offensive, obviously we should expect much more casualties as compared to the previous phase 1, because what apparently seems to be their target, that they want to, at least the minimum objective should be to create a buffer zone all along the Israeli border with Gaza. So if they have to create that buffer zone, then they have to push these Palestinians out of that belt, which would amount to dead or alive, and the blatant and barbarian approach that they have shown previously, we don't expect, and we should not be naive to expect that they will care for anybody's life or property in that region. So I think whenever they launch it is going to be a massive and disastrous number of fatalities.
But they are saying that the tanks have entered Gaza as we speak. But of course, let's hope some kind of sanity prevails. But I don't see, looking at the way Israel has been handling the situation, that there's any sanity of any kind or any humanity in Israel as far as what it is doing to Palestine is concerned. How has the response from the international community been? We know of the resolution that was passed by the United Nations General Assembly, but does it have any significance as far as Israel stopping? Because we saw the reaction from the Israeli ambassador to the UN, that who not only undermined this resolution but also undermined the presence of, the importance of the United Nations as a body.
Exactly. Look at his mannerism, the way his body language and the way it was put up. It was total defiance of the norms of United Nations. And at this stage, I must highlight and appreciate. You have shown in your visual also
Munir Akram
Saab.
Oh, wonderful,
how
wonderful.
Candidly and how well articulated.
From the heart.
From the heart. And Pakistan's point of view and the plight of Palestinians couldn't have been represented in better words than anybody else. So we must appreciate, and let's hope that others also join in, at least in condemning. The group led by America, who are supportive of Israel, they are very open and they are very overtly supporting. But unfortunately, from other countries, and more so ironically from the Arab world, we hardly see any response, even the condemnation. What to talk about any threat or any posturing which could somehow deter this likely aggression or the ground offensive into the Gaza Strip.
What I liked, sir, was the fact that even a country like France, that was also supporting Israel, went in support of the United Nations General Assembly resolution, saying that it did not want any human, the deaths of lives, normal civilian lives as a result of this. And I think I understand the perspective, and I think more and more countries need to join in the fray as far as that is concerned. But what do you feel? How can the people in Gaza now protect themselves? Which kind of external protection, as far as regional countries or the world is concerned, will be helping them in the coming days? I know that aid is slowly and steadily entering Gaza on a very small level, but it is nevertheless entering. But what in the long run? What happens in the next week or 10 days?
Aid, it is just fractional amount of aid which is just likely to be made available to them, and that will barely help them to survive. As far as their protection against the onslaught, they do not have any wherewithal to defend themselves, because their first offensive which they launched, it was rocket attacks and whatever means they used. That was one aspect. But now, to defend themselves, they do not have that kind of defensive protection, and there are no barriers against tanks or vehicles. It is a thickly populated area. If you go by terrain or the demography in that area, thickly populated by Palestinians. So any building which is being demolished, or any premises which are being overrun by an APC or a tank, it means a family gone. So that kind of
and the fact is, there are so many children in the hospitals. There is no space in the hospitals. There is no space in the emergency wards. The hospitals have been destroyed by them, and there is further news of other hospitals that will be targeted in the coming days as well. From even, let's forget the rest. From a humane angle, from a human rights point of view, what can be done by countries or by organizations? Also, the fact that somebody said that the International Criminal Court could be involved in this because of the impeding of the aid to Gaza. Could that somehow help the people in Gaza in the form of more aid coming in the form of maybe criminal cases taken out against those people who have been behind these incursions in Gaza?
Maybe, but even if they allow, they will be very selective. Probably they will allow International Red Cross to in the lead role, and they would not allow in my assessment, the Muslim countries, NGOs or other groups to be there physically on ground to dispense with this food or medicines. And as you mentioned, the children are in hospital, but hospitals are not secure. So being in hospital and being in ICU or in a bed in a hospital does not necessarily mean that they will see the daylight of the coming sun. So that is kind of threat that they are facing, and unfortunately, I mean, it is happening in this media-savvy environment where every country talks about human rights and animal rights.
But let's give the devil his due, quote unquote. Look at the number of protests that have erupted in all the countries, even those countries that have openly supported Israel. There have been protests. There have been also protests by the Jewish lobby in different countries across the world, for supporting the Palestinians. So there is a huge amount or number of people that are supporting that. Is that going to impact in any way whatsoever what is happening in Gaza?
No, I think it represents a very paradoxical situation wherein the societies or public at large, they have some normal values and they are supportive of Palestinians on humanitarian grounds. But the rulers and the ruling elite all around that region and globally, they have their own vested interests and they formulate their policies and day-to-day handling of the issue based on their own vested interest.
All right. AVM Sahab, also I'd like to understand something. We've seen that there has been a reaction from Hezbollah as well. And when Islamic Jihad and Hezbollah and other such factions join hands, as has been predicted since the last few days, what happens? Do you feel that this, what is happening within the outskirts of Gaza is going to trickle out in the neighboring countries as well?
Yes, that could happen. That could happen because unlike Hamas, Hezbollah tentacles and Hezbollah's outreach and networking is slightly more complex, and it may have some impact on the outcome of this conflict.
Or AVM Sahab, it is also being said that the United Nations Security Council is to meet today and discuss Israel's massive operation in Gaza as well as the dire humanitarian situation on the ground. Remember that the United Nations Security Council's resolutions are legally binding, not those of the United Nations General Assembly. So what if something happens that is against the Israeli interests? What then? Or if it is not against Israel, what do you feel could be the outcome of this meeting of the United Nations Security Council? Can you predict?
Really not,
Okay.
because United Nations in the previous 2 to 3 decades, it has been an extension of American policies, and American policies are governed by the Jewish lobby in Washington, D.C. So I would not have any optimistic view about that.
All right. Wherein on the one hand we are hearing of ground operations that are going to happen in Gaza. On the other hand, we've got the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, saying that Washington has no intentions of sending troops to either Israel or Gaza. She said, and I quote, "There should be no conflation between Hamas and the Palestinians. The Palestinians deserve equal measures of safety and security, self-determination and dignity." Do you see that translating in real terms in Gaza?
Really not, because their earlier stance by moving their flotilla and their aircraft carrier in the region, that was deciphered by the analysts just to contain the conflict and to in fact deter others to get involved in this conflict. It was per se not to interfere in what is going on in Gaza. And I think this statement is probably just to comfort some of the domestic or international audience. It will practically have no impact.
All right, finally, small answer. AVM Saab, we are seeing the reactions in different governments in different countries across the world. Not only on one hand we have protests, but also we have reactions coming. For example, in the United Kingdom, the London police has been put on high alert to kind of look into the different educational institutions as to the racism that could increase as a result of this conflict that is erupting in Gaza. Do you foresee racism, Islamophobia on the increase in countries in the West as a result of this conflict?
This could happen. This could happen. It could be, intentionally propagated, or an environment may be created, or it could just be a spontaneous reaction of those marginalized communities to show their anger. It could be both ways.
All right. Thank you very much, AVM Saab, AVM Ijaz, Malik, senior analyst, joining us to discuss the situation in Palestine, in Gaza. We can keep our fingers crossed. We can highlight as much as we want, AVM Saab, as far as the situation is concerned. But ultimately, the ball is in the court of the important powers in the West that need to move forward, for the aid to arrive in Gaza, and B, to have a ceasefire, and C, to have a long-term solution in the form of a two-state solution that had already been agreed between the two states. And this is the need of the day before it further escalates and becomes a regional war, and it could even erupt further if things are not done the right way in the right time. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, and our second story concerns the love for data protection. Now, as far as the data protection is concerned, there has been a law by the European Union that was passed recently, known as the General Data Protection Regulation. Now, different countries across the world have now adapted it because this is what the EU wants as far as social media is concerned. In Pakistan, there is Pakistan's personal data protection bill that was passed in July this year. In India, there is an Indian Digital Personal Data Protection Act that was also passed. But the fact is that there is a lot of apprehension as far as India is concerned. As much as 52% of organizations are very concerned about the potential impact of the upcoming privacy regulations in India on the operations as well as the data handling process, according to a study by a professional services firm that is known as EY. Asad Baig, digital rights activist, joined us online. Asad, it had been some time that we had talked, and it's very important that you be part of this discussion. Asad, let's talk about the main goal of this national data protection law, whether it concerns India or Pakistan or any other country, as per the General Data Protection Regulation that has been imposed by the European Union. How can this, in your point of view, balance individual data, privacy, state interests, and business growth, looking at the general environment of how the data can be used or misused?
Thank you, Omar. I think firstly we need to say, and we obviously it's a matter of a fact, that the data protection legislations are important. And GDPR is obviously one example, and we've seen how GDPR is used in terms of providing protections to the people in the EU by finding the big tech companies and by ensuring that companies like Meta and Google, these are multi-billion-dollar companies. Obviously, they're in many cases they're bigger than some governments of the world. In one way or another, making them accountable. So that's that. Data protection and privacy is important. Now, coming to the other part. What kind of a law do we need, right? So there is this person, Zahir Jamil, and I was recently hearing him speak somewhere, and he said something which stuck with me, and I'd like to repeat that. And he said that the laws in Pakistan, they need to come from the perspective or from the angle of actually growth, right? So keeping the growth mindset in the view, nor the fear which we usually do. So unfortunately, we've seen that legislations surrounding internet in Pakistan have come, and they have their basis in the fear, right? The fear against national interest, the fear against harms and so on. But that actually does more harm than good. In the data protection law, the Pakistani data protection law, firstly, Omar, I'm not going to compare the Pakistani law with the Indian one, right? Because we are two different realities, they're two different markets. I don't think that's a fair comparison, frankly speaking. However, in Pakistan, we need to keep in mind that there is a massive growing economy when it comes to digital, right? There are freelancers who are bringing a foreign revenue in Pakistan. There are people who are selling Pakistani software and so on and so forth, right? So they're the need of the market. We need to keep them in the view. Unfortunately, I feel that those needs were not kept in view when this data protection bill was passed by the federal cabinet in July. By the way, it's not a law yet. It was passed by the federal cabinet. Yes. It hasn't enacted yet, which is a great thing. which means that perhaps we have more time, to have consultations and to have a broad-based discussion on what the law should look like in Pakistan. But the very quick last point about this matter is that we need to make sure that the Pakistani companies, the key stakeholder groups, the people who are making internet and turning internet into powering the digital economy in Pakistan, they need to be kept in the loop and they need to be consulted for any legislations that are around data protection or safety or privacy.
Asad, I understand what you're trying to say, but at the same time, what I'd like to also understand from you is what kind of challenges do we foresee as far as the application of the GDPR is concerned, and how much of the GDPR, in your point of view, because you must have studied it in detail, I haven't, so I'm referring to you as well as our expert. What do you feel we can extract from the GDPR and install in our system in order to make our system more transparent and at the same time more secure?
That's an excellent question, Omar. And let me, in response to that, say something very important, which I've been meaning to say, that taking the best practices from the Western world is probably the worst idea that I can tell you when it comes to legislating around internet, because there are many practices in the Western world which are absolutely unapplicable in Pakistan, right? And so if you borrow best practices, that's another thing. But if you try and copy legislation, and by that I mean get an inspiration from the Western world to replicate law in Pakistan, that's probably a bad idea. And that's exactly why I'm saying that we need to have a broad-based consultation, a round of broad-based consultations within Pakistan, engaging the key stakeholder groups here, because we have big tech companies here, we have big players who are working as freelancers, and in fact, a lot of students that I know, even young people, they're working as freelancers, earning more than most people do in their monthly jobs. So these people, these individuals should be kept in the loop. Overall, I would say that one matter that I see that needs addressing perhaps in the Pakistani data protection law is the matter of the outflow of the data, so to speak, right? The use of the cloud services and so on. That shouldn't get affected with any kind of privacy or data protection law in Pakistan, because that will actually be very disadvantageous for the people who are working as freelancers.
But Asad, there needs to be a very delicate balancing act when it comes to data or data protection. We know how a lot of nefarious organizations use data, use cloud services, use the different methods of discussion on the activities that they are going to carry out or might carry out through transfer of data. How to make that differentiation between what is safe, what isn't safe, and how to ascertain. I mean, that is also a very delicate balance that needs to be done.
That's an excellent question, Omar, and that's exactly why. So firstly, just to add into what you were saying, there are examples of Cambridge Analytica, for instance. There are examples of not just the Pakistani users, but the users across the world losing their data and their data being used for all kinds of nefarious purposes that you've rightly pointed out. So that's it's a sad reality, unfortunately. And exactly why I'm saying we need more people who are experts in technology. We need more people who understand the rights and privacy. And then we need more people who understand cybersecurity becoming a part of this debate. Unfortunate, and frankly speaking, this law has been on the website for a while now, and the IT ministry has been accepting recommendations and observations on the law. But I feel that this kind of legislation should not be hurried, number one. Number two, that the government itself, as opposed to accepting passive recommendations, the government itself should hold proactive consultations, broad-based consultations with all the key stakeholder groups, and understand and try and kind of incorporate their view, like you rightly pointed out, their view into this legislation process. That needs to happen. And I think it was a good move by the previous government that they did not pass it in a hurry. They did not haste it, because they had a chance. You remember they passed it from the cabinet, and they had a chance to bring it in the parliament before they actually their tenure was finished. But I think it was a good move. It was a very good decision that they let it be, and probably the next government will have more of an opportunity to have broad-based recommendations and consultations on this policy.
And I hope they'll include your organization as well when it comes to consultations. Asad, I've received various messages on WhatsApp, on my text, through text messages, on people requesting my information, people saying that I have won XYZ lottery or this and that, and that I need to press on a certain number and then send that back, and then they will give me more information. Manipulation of users into providing consent for data is something of a huge concern, especially in a country like Pakistan, where a lot of people are not data savvy or internet savvy as per se, as much as maybe you are, or maybe myself to a less extent. How can you guide those people in the right direction?
I think it's very important, Omar, like you pointed out, that people need to learn about how their data is being used. And frankly speaking, a lot of people think that the data protection and privacy is only targeted at the international companies operating in Pakistan. Excuse me, no. It's also for the local companies operating in Pakistan. So for instance, my telcos, right? They have my information, or any other digital company in Pakistan, for instance, they have my information. Any state company or the government companies, they have my information. Now, I have the right to know how that information is being used, right? For instance, you must know that Nadra fiasco, a lot of data was leaked online and so on, right? So I need to know that who is responsible for that. We need to hold the people who are accountable, not just Nadra. Nadra has improved many-fold, by the way, now, but I'm talking about all the private companies who are also using. So you say you get messages, right? Think about it. Where do you think these people are getting your numbers from? How do you think they know your name and where you work and so on, right? Because somebody somewhere is not keeping our data safe, right? And we have a right to know about that. B, we need to make sure that these people who are mishandling our data, they are set accountable, and this is exactly what the law is supposed to be, right? But at the same time, like I pointed out earlier, if we have a law, for instance, in place which is doing more harm than good, and I'm not just talking about individual harm, I'm talking about harm to the larger digital economy and the future of Pakistan, right? Then probably that's a bad idea.
All right, thank you very much, Asad Baig, to have joined us, digital rights expert and activist Asad Baig, joining us online. I hope to see more of you in the coming days as well. We've got lots to discuss when it comes to data. Thank you very much to have joined us. This was Asad Baig talking to us about the EU's General Data Protection Regulation and how there's a lot of apprehension in India about the effects of that. But of course, we concentrated on what is happening in Pakistan and what needs to be done and what are the challenges that remain as far as data protection in Pakistan is concerned. Let's come to our next story, and that concerns the Foreign Office that has released a statement as far as the immigrants are concerned. The Foreign Office says that it has seen the press statement by the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. It says that the illegal foreigners repatriation plan applies to all illegal foreigners residing in Pakistan, irrespective of their nationality and the country of origin. All foreign nationals legally residing, registered in Pakistan, are beyond the purview of this plan. The government of Pakistan also in the statement says that it takes its commitments towards protection and safety needs of those in vulnerable situations with utmost seriousness. Our record of the last 40 years in hosting millions of our Afghan brothers and sisters speaks for itself. Of course it does, because of the number of people that have stayed here for decades, how we have welcomed them with open arms as well. The statement further says that the international community must scale up the collective efforts to address the protracted refugee situations through advancing durable solutions as a matter of priority. Pakistan will continue to work with our international partners to this end. I think that's a very important and very clear-cut statement that has come from the Foreign Office that puts into perspective on who the repatriation applies to as far as the November 1 deadline is concerned. And by the way, we've only got one day before. Today is the 30th and it's already gone. Tomorrow is the last day and 1st is the deadline. So of course this remains to be seen. The number of Afghans, if you just look at it, I mean these are just part of the whole illegal foreigners, but on the 29th of October, 6,382 Afghans have left for their country. Of those, 1,623 are men, 1,594 women and 3,165 are children. We all know how Pakistan has been helping the Afghan nationals since the war erupted in the late 70s and early 80s in Afghanistan, and how we've housed them, how they've been part of our lives as well. But of course, as far as illegal foreigners are concerned, as per the regulations, now they have to leave the country, not the legally present ones. We've been joined by Zahir Shah Sherazi. Zahir Shah Sherazi is a senior journalist. Zahir, thank you very much to have joined us. Zahir, when it comes to the Foreign Office statement, how important is it, and how important was it to clear the facts as far as this November 1 deadline is concerned?
Well, I think the Foreign Office is very clear that all those illegal immigrants living in Pakistan, they have to leave by the deadline. And perhaps arrangements have also been made, not only in Peshawar and on the bordering areas. There is a transit camp which has been established in Landi Kotal. And this transit camp will house all those Afghans who wanted to repatriate voluntarily, as well as all those who would be asked to leave after the deadline expires. But here an important thing is that we've also have a contact and spoken to the Afghan Consul General Hafiz Muhibbullah in Peshawar, and he was saying that they support and they are on one page with the Pakistani authorities as far as the illegal Afghans or any immigrants are concerned who are living in Pakistan. And I think the Afghan government has an endorsement that all those who are living illegally in the Pakistani side of the border, they have to leave and go back. Hafiz Muhibbullah also told that they are making arrangements for all those who would be repatriated or back to Afghanistan, and all those illegal Afghan nationals who are living here in Pakistan in different cities. The Afghan government, the Kabul would try to rehabilitate him, and they are making arrangements for those. So I think a media hype which is created by some quarters that perhaps it's an injustice on the part of the Pakistani government, but repeatedly the Pakistani provincial chief minister in KP, he has repeatedly said that all those who would have a POR card or they had a valid visa, they can continue to live. And still, we would have more than 23 million legal and registered Afghan refugees who are still living in Pakistan, and the Pakistani authorities are not likely to, forcibly ask them to leave the Pakistani areas.
Another question, Zahir, is about the dignified treatment of those who will be leaving Pakistan, repatriated from Pakistan. What measures have been taken to ensure that in holding centers, especially the women, children and the elderly?
Well, the transit camp which has been established at Landi Kotal, the Afghan refugees who don't have any legal documents, they don't have any visa or the POR card, they are flocking to that transit camp in Landi Kotal, which is at the Torkham border. And after that, from there, a proper registration process and documentation would be done, and they would be asked to leave the country. Perhaps there are arrangements have been made for their food, shelter. Temporary shelters have also been established. The doctors are also available there. So once as the deadline is drawing near, and it is likely to end tomorrow, so there is likely that a large number of people will be flocking towards the border to leave. Apart from that, there is also a temporary camp registered, established in Peshawar, where all those women, children who would be coming from different parts of the tribal areas, they would be kept there for some time, and after that they would be shifted to the transit camp. So I think there would be a dignified treatment. There is no force, there is no use of force to be used against those people. And all those who are having their businesses, they have valid visas, they have the POR cards, perhaps they would not be treated like this. So this is what the authorities are combing these areas. But yes, there are thousands of illegal nationals, not only Afghans, but there are some other nationalities who are doing businesses in Peshawar. They have illegal businesses, and either these businesses are registered in somebody else's name or the Pakistanis. So 7,000 of those have also been identified, and it is likely they would be treated against under the Pakistani laws for any illegal immigrant who is living in Pakistan without any legal documents, visa or the POR card, as the case may be.
Zahir, what happens after the 1st of November? What about those who refuse to leave Pakistan, those illegally present foreigners in Pakistan who refuse to leave the country?
Well, you have the immigration laws, and you have to treat all those illegal immigrants equally. And the Pakistani government has announced this announcement has been made for all those. It's not specific to the Afghans who are living inside Pakistan. Perhaps now, after that, when the authorities start combing these areas, they are also contacting all those property dealers who have given houses, residences to Afghans or any other foreign nationals on their guarantees. So anyone who is found violating those rules and regulations, they are likely to be taken to task. This is very important. But again, it should be clarified, and I think this myth should also be removed that there is some forced kind of eviction of the people there. They would be treated, perhaps what the authorities are saying, that they would be properly treated, they will be escorted to the border, and from there, they would be handed over to the Afghan authorities. And an important thing, now Peshawar is the main area. You know, it has always been at the front line, not only in the war on terror, but also the influx of refugees is, felt by this city. And when we spoke to the Afghan Consul General based in Peshawar, perhaps he's saying that they are not annoyed with any such decision because this is Pakistani side. They can better plan how they are going to treat the illegal immigrants. But Kabul is ready to, make arrangements for those Afghan nationals who are returning back. But yes, they have also appealed to the international community as the Pakistani Foreign Office that they should not be, leaving them alone. Now this is the time millions of Afghan who are returning to their homes, perhaps the international community should be playing its role. All this war and the war on terror, which was fought by the allied forces inside Afghanistan and the Pakistani tribal areas. Perhaps Pashtuns are the only population who had suffered a lot. So it's not, again, that they would be ditched and they would be left alone. So this is how the Pakistani and the Afghan government has appealed to the international community as well as the United Nations.
Zahir, our caretaker Interior Minister Sarfaraz Bugti Sahab says, and I quote, that in the last 3 days over 20,000 illegal foreigners have left Pakistan voluntarily. He also says that the government is encouraging voluntary repatriation of foreign nationals until Wednesday, after which it will commence the operation to expel them. He also talks about the expulsion of the illegal foreigners that will be happening in phases. Now, what about these phases? How long do you feel these phases are going to last for? And do you feel that the process is going to be a long drawn out one post the 1st of November?
Well, I think so. It will go beyond 1st of November. The reason, obviously, that there are millions of those illegal people who are living on the Pakistani side. This may be with some relatives, or they may be in hand in glove with the Pakistani authorities, the administration. They have sheltered them, and they are not asking about any documents. But now, once the announcement has been made, the issue is very much clear that all those who don't have any legal documents, they have to leave. And November 1 deadline was that because they wanted to ask those illegal immigrants to move as soon as possible they can from the Pakistani side to their own country. So this is one thing. The second thing is, even by November 1st, if still there is a large population which is residing illegally, not only in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, but also in Karachi, in Lahore, and other cities, and also in the remote areas. So those operations which will be carried out by the police, they would have to verify and check the POR cards or the visas of those illegal immigrants, if they are even Afghans or some other nationals. So now again the law course would be taking its course, I think, and obviously there would be some kind of action against them. The action would be simply that they would be repatriated back to their country under the Foreign Act. So this is the only thing what they can do. Only handing over to the authorities on the border, that would be the worst thing which they are likely to face. But there is no force, there is no use of force, there will be no action against those people who are willing to repatriate back to their own country.
Zahir, there's a statement by the United Nations Commissioner for Human Rights that, of course, questions this very act that Pakistan is doing, and when Pakistan says in return in the statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that Pakistan will continue to work with our international partners, how does that bode, and do you feel the clarity of the statement that has come from the Foreign Office was important to also make our international partners like the United Nations and the UN High Commission for Human Rights understand the perspective that Pakistan has?
It's very much clear. The UNHCR. What is the role of the UNHCR? It has to facilitate those people who are living in camps, but there are no camps. Then how the UNHCR is functioning here? It has just a role of post office. It is just registering the people and sending them back, and then giving them the food, giving them their financial assistance, and the next day most of these people are coming back again for their financial activities inside Peshawar. The real issue is not of the refugee status. The actual problem is most of them are now economic migrants because they are doing businesses here. They are running illegal business centers here. They are, involved in a number of even criminal activities because you don't have the record. So the people who do have the record, I think the UN system or the international community should not be objecting, because even Afghan government is not allowing any Pakistani citizen to roam around inside Afghanistan, in any part of Afghanistan, even on the bordering areas, without any legal documents. We have to take a document, we have to have a proper visa, and that's why when the Kabul will be allowing us to enter Afghanistan. So this is a very fair thing. Pakistan has its own priorities, and we have seen now what the law enforcement agencies are saying. Most of the time, this last spate of suicide bombings and a number of other attacks inside Pakistan, 14 of them were allegedly carried out by the Afghan nationals who don't have a record in Pakistan. So I think Pakistan would have to, check his priorities and what it wanted, because another thing,
Exactly.
the Pakistani economy is suffering a lot. So this is another reason why the illegal immigrants are being...
So is Pakistan securities. Thank you very much, Zahir Shah, Sherazi, senior journalist, who have joined us, to have talked to us about the statement that has emanated from the Pakistani Foreign Office as a rebuttal to the statement by the United Nations Commissioner for Human Rights. Let's come to our last three stories. The first concerns the special anti-polio drive that starts today in 4 districts of Punjab, including Rawalpindi district. Now, of course, this is Rawalpindi, Lahore, Sheikhupura and Rajanpur, 4 districts where this polio campaign is starting, where children below the age of 5 will be administered the polio drops. It's very important because there have been aspersions that there are some positive polio signs in the area surrounding Rajanpur. So of course Rajanpur is the most important area, followed by all the other areas, that is Lahore and Rawalpindi, as far as, and also Sheikhupura. Now a huge score of children will be administered during this campaign, and the whole aim of this campaign and other campaigns that are happening is to completely eliminate polio from Pakistan. I hope Pakistan achieves that this year or early next year. Then let's come to Florida in the United States of America, where 2 dead and 18 injured after a shooting that happened during Halloween celebrations. There have been different videos that have come up online of the people shooting each other right after some kind of a celebration that was around Halloween. Halloween is of course on the 31st of October. We also know about other such shooting incidents that have been happening in the past. We know about what happened in Maine, where 22 people lost their lives, around more than 50 were injured. So a lot of question marks around the gun laws in the United States of America, and such incidents that have also been increasing over the last few months and years. Lastly, there has been an Indian train collision which has happened between the towns of Almanda and Kantakapale in Andhra Pradesh state, which has left 13 people dead, and the government sources say that human error is the reason behind this. We hope that the needful will be done and the culprits will be apprehended. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you tomorrow with news story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.